Hello, so I'm just out for a walk and so I'm just going to have a walk and a talk. And before I do that, I'm just going to read this poem. So this is called Sacred Nation. So what makes our people, our country, our nation? What gives us character, soul and salvation? The good Lord above willed our creation, and great Gaelic men became this country's foundation. Now other races arrive with no identification. They use colonial history as a justification to claim free food and free accommodation. These young Muslim men will bring us tribulation. Now give up your homeland in compensation, confine your grandchildren to degradation, to benefit this new population, and if you speak out, you're an abomination. Welcome to Ireland and a new plantation, where the government tells us as an explanation they will be just like us with a little education, and the Gael will be a minority by the next generation. If you love your people and want their liberation, raise your voice now before the coming devastation. The good Lord will bless you for your determination to save your people from certain damnation. This ancient race suffers from spiritual starvation. The Gael has lost his instinct for self-preservation by giving in to Satan's temptation, trading God's love for self-gratification. Gaelic men, awaken from your intoxication and offer yourselves up to God's incarnation. Only Christ can avert the coming humiliation. Only Christ can save us from certain annihilation. Awaken now, Gael, to the evil machination, to dispossess you of your homeland and leave you in desolation, when your daughters have to suffer the ultimate denigration. Awaken now, Gael, and defend your sacred nation. Alright, so yeah, so that was just a poem I wrote that last week, and yeah, so I want to talk about a few things here on this walk. So the first thing I want to talk about, a couple of big issues. The main issue, of course, is the immigration issue. Just a couple of facts about it. At the moment, Google says that Ireland, there are 1 million foreign nationals living in Ireland at the moment. That's in this 2023. So that's 2022. So 1 million foreign nationals living in Ireland at the moment. There's another 1 million projected by government to be here by 2040 or so. And then an academic, I can't remember the college, is it UCD or is it DCU or UCD, I can't remember. But he came out and said that by 2050, Irish people will be a minority in their own country. So we'll be like 49% Irish by 2050 at the current rate of immigration. Excuse me. So that's absolutely devastating. It means in my lifetime. So I was born in I was young in the 80s. So from the 80s, 1980s till 2050, so within 70 years, Ireland will go from like probably like 96, 97, 98% Irish to under 50%. Absolutely devastating. If you look at what happened in the USA, before it was the USA, but when it was the Native Americans, it took them 300 years, and that's a massive continent, but 300 years basically for them to go from, being like a 99% majority in that land to just living on reservations, being a tiny population. And that's the future that's facing Irish people and Europeans in general in many countries. But I just want to focus on Ireland. So what that means is that Irish people will lose their homeland, their ancestral homeland, and the people many people will leave. They'll flee, they'll go to different countries and set up there, and the people that will stay will basically be second-class citizens in their own country, because what's coming will be an Islamic state. That's what's coming. It won't be, that's the future. That's because we're letting in too many of them, and these guys don't integrate. They tend to. Muhammad was a conqueror, and so they imitate the prophet, like Christians we imitate Christ. They imitate Muhammad. Muhammad was he was a charismatic, a warlord who conquered people, and he had slaves. He had many wives. The Muslims emulate him, so and they imitate him. So that's the kind of people we're bringing in. It's a conquering religion. So yeah, so it's terrifying. So the reason why I'm making these videos is to stop that, in the hope that I can, try and stop it. I'm actually quite hopeful that we will be able to stop it, because I do see, like, now a lot of people are still very, very asleep, but the people that are awake have got a fire, have got a passion in them. So, I think that we have potential to carry this fight and win. So immigration, major problem. The survival of the Irish people is really what's on the line. So it doesn't get any bigger than that. Um, and then there are other things that are happening at the moment, crazy stuff. Like the pharmacia, the jobs, I think that this coming winter we're going to start seeing the real repercussions of that particular brand of sorcery. I think that I watched a doctor talking about he was talking about some studies that had been done on the US military, and another study that had been done in Thailand on the people who had taken the jab, and that they ran at they have this condition called myocarditis. So it's 1 in a million. Normally people who get it, it's 1 in a million, so very rare. And now that the people who took the jabs, we're looking at between a 14% and 24% rate of that rare disease, myocarditis, which is heart inflammation, heart swelling. So you could say an average of about 20%. So it went from 1 in a million, and then after the jabs to 200,000 in a million. So that's quite significant. And of those 200,000, of the 20%, 10% apparently who get this condition die within 5 years. So we're looking at a huge kind of, I'm going to say, like almost like a Black Death style event coming. That's what I think is coming, and I think it's already started, but they've been able to hide it because it's not really apparent yet. But unless you're paying attention, but they're not going to be able to hide the numbers that are coming shortly. And I think it's going to kick off this winter, where we're going to start seeing death rates of 50, 60%, and maybe higher above average. So that's going to be if you couple that with the invasion, the plantations, we have a fight in our hands. There's no doubt about it. And then we have the other things that's happening at the moment with the it's a strange thing that's really happening, that I'm surprised there's not more pushback. It's the education, the dumbing down of the children with the poor education, and then the sexualization of them with the with this very, very, very strange sexual sex education that's aimed at very young people. It doesn't seem appropriate. A sign of a healthy society is to protect your children's innocence for as long as possible. That's a sign of a good, healthy society. What we're doing is, at the moment, or what's being done, is the opposite. And I think that anybody who can step outside of the bubble of the culture, and you look at what's happening in the world, and you realize that this is evil. There's an evil force at work in the world. And then if you go and look at the media, who are the main drivers of this, by the way, if you go and look at the media, like I was reading an article the other day, and it's an article that I've been reading. The tone of the article I've been reading since I was a teenager, and it was all about how the evil Catholic Church and how it was so dark in the 50s and 60s in Ireland and all this kind of stuff, and Catholic Ireland was such a dark, dreary, place, and everybody was miserable. And they say that in the media. But everybody I talked to that lived back then said that life was much better. They were all very much happier. Things were, communities were stronger. People felt, there was far less social problems. There's always going to be social problems, but there's far less social problems. People, for the most part, adhered to the teachings of the church and lived, lives of general contentment and happiness and hope. And not like we have the young people today who are floundering in depression and despair and fear because they have no hope, because the thing that gives us hope, which is God and Christ, it's been denigrated in the mainstream media, and and so they're turning away from that because it's people are almost told that if you believe in God, you're stupid, and only intelligent people. If you're intelligent, you're an atheist. It's really the opposite. Atheists are very stupid. Not all of them, but in general, it's not a good. It's not a good approach to life. Now, no. Yeah. So why am I making this video? Well, the reason why I make these videos is because I think that we're headed for a real. I'm going to use the word tribulation, but it doesn't really cover tribulation. It's something more than that. I think we're headed for a really dark time in the near future. But I do think that the people that can survive it, I think will emerge victorious. Especially I'm talking about Catholics and Christians in general, people who have a relationship with Christ and faith in Christ. I think that we are somehow it's not going to be easy, but we're going to have a better. We have some defense against what's coming. I suppose that's the best way to put it. When I think about the Bible, especially when you look at the Book of Revelations and horsefly, and by studying the Word of God, it gives you defense against the evil works of Satan, really. And Satan has hijacked our culture and he's turned it all upside down, and now everything that's bad is good and good and bad. So, but by reading the Bible and studying it and drawing ourselves close to God, we can defend. We have a defense, because Satan can't come and twist your arm and get you to do it. He gets into the mind. That's where he does his work. It's in the invisible arena, and he convinces you that that the things that are good, he convinces you that they're bad, and the other way around. Or the things that your sins aren't that bad and you get away with them, and so he leads you slowly to your kind of to your death, really. And that's what he's doing to our culture. It's like I saw a quote recently from I can't remember the name of the saint, but he said that Satan can't make hell look attractive, so he makes the road to hell appear attractive. And that's what's happening to us in our culture. All the road to hell, which is suffering, just untold suffering, that he has made that road attractive. So he's got all young people, especially who are immersed in the culture, and most of them are miserable, and I kind of see it when I'm talking to them. There's a lack of hope in young people now. It's like it's in their eyes. It's not like when I was young. Young people they had a spark, they had hope, they had energy, they had a belief in a brighter future. I think the young people coming up now, from what I'm seeing, and this is just my experience, a lot of them don't have much hope. They don't see how are they going to afford, in their low-paying jobs, how are they going to afford a house? How are they going to afford to have a family? How are they going to, they can't see any kind of future. It's just endless courses, upgrades, and going on these government schemes, and there's very little for them, I think, and they sense that, and it's depressing, and then as well, the main thing that's been removed from them is the idea of Christ and loving God has been completely ripped out of our society, or is attempting to rip it out of our society completely. And so they don't even have that. They don't even have anywhere to turn to in their darkest moments. It's we're just living in a really evil time, and I feel it's really sad for the young people today, because they don't have what would you say? They don't have they're too young, they're too immature to understand, that the culture that they're in now was not the way it always was. That the culture has been changed, and it's not been changed for their benefit. It's been changed to keep them as slaves. That this culture is designed to enslave them. you know, and they don't, but they're not being given an alternative. They're being told there's no alternative. This is just the way it is, and we've all been told that. This, you know, endless march to progress. You know, it's just progress, progress, progress. You know, and but you know, where is it headed to? Because you know, it's on the one hand, you know, what's the goal of the progress? There has to be a goal. But if you ask, you know, it's just endless progress. Well, I don't know if it's just it doesn't seem to me to be endless progress. I think it's a descent into hell. Is really where we're going. In the short term, anyway. But I don't want to just be like all hopeless and everything, because I don't feel that way. I actually feel myself I've got a lot of hope. And I'm going to entitle this video "The Coming Victory," because I think that you know, the agents of darkness and most of the agents of darkness in the world are not doing they're not purposely acting in a way that, you know, they're not you know, in their dark rooms at night hatching evil plans, or anything. Like, they're just, it's self-will, selfishness, you know. And that's like, you know, the story of Lucifer, and he fell from the earth, or fell from heaven. It was his pride, you know, that he was the greatest angel, and he was sent into he was greatest angel, and he basically valued himself above God, and then, you know, he fell into hell. And that's, you know, that's the story of pride, really. And like, that's what we have in human beings. You know, the human beings that value themselves have no relationship with God. They only value their own self-gratification, what they can get for themselves out of life. And this is a lot of our politicians and media guys, and, you know, the pharma companies, all these kind of guys. You know, this is you know, it's their pride and their self-will. They're just living for themselves, for their own profit, for their own gain, and for the gain maybe of their you know, a couple of their friends, people who can benefit them. So they have no idea, no connection to a higher principle. And so, you know, and we need that. Without that higher principle, without God and without Christ, you go insane. You know, that's just the way it is. You just go insane. And you can see that now in our society. Anybody who's kind of halfway sane can see, like, that you know, we are living in a many of the people in our society that are unwell are being held up as paragons of virtue, or of health, or of well-being, you know. And it's obvious these people are very, very unstable and very unwell, and they need help. They don't need to be, you know, people telling them that they're great, and, you know, kind of supporting their delusions. That's not loving. You don't need to do that. Tell them the truth, you know. It's a man says he's a woman, and you say, oh, you can pretend to be, and that's fine, but you can never be one. You can pretend to be one, and that's the best you can do, you know. And you know, there are other things as well. I'm picking out that one because it's just an obvious one. But yeah. So yeah, and then the other thing, I suppose, is you know, yeah, we live in, like I just mentioned earlier on about the politicians, and, you know, like, you know, they're basically, a lot of them are serving they're serving Satan. They're serving the agents of darkness. Now, they're not doing it purposely. They're doing it out of ignorance. They've been deceived into it. And you know, and one way you know that is in Ireland we have all of our parties it's basically one uni party. We have one uni party. They're all in the Dáil, in the Parliament. They all have the same viewpoints on all the major issues. So, you know, when the Pharmacia came out, they all, you know, promoted and supported the jabs. When the lockups, when they were imprisoning people in their own homes, they all supported that. You know, the open borders, they all support that. You know, the drag queen story time, they all support that, and so on and so on. You know, there's a couple of dissidents here and there, but the main line for each party is the same on all these major issues, the important issues. So what we have in Ireland basically is, it's like it's where we're headed, towards a kind of a totalitarian, kind of communist, kind of uni-party state, where the Sinn Féin, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, they're only just factions, but they all have the same views, you know, on major issues, but they're just factions within the one uni party. And that's what we have in Ireland at the moment. All the parties, all the major parties, it's a uni-party. It's one party. So I don't know if voting will change anything. Who do we? There's apart from like there's the National Party, there's the Irish Freedom Party, and then there's another party, and I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, but there's a few nationalist parties that have been set up. But they don't have the political clout of the other parties. At the moment they don't have the grassroots, they don't have the support yet. So, but how do we? So I don't know if voting's going to change anything. Definitely not in the short term. I think we're headed. It's just where we're headed. And my own feeling on is like this is a spiritual war. It's a spiritual war, and so if you want to win the spiritual war, you have to engage at the spiritual level. That's the most important thing. So more so than voting, or more so even than sharing, making videos or talking to people, sharing content. Although all this stuff can be important, the most important thing I think is is to wage the war against the darkness in our own lives. So to become a kind of a spiritual kind of master ourselves, so that we don't engage in wrongdoing, so that we don't engage in so that we're able to then live according to a certain frequency or vibration, where we're able to help other people, attract other people to our way of life, and help them. It's a spiritual war, and the spiritual toolkit that we have. We have prayer. If you're Catholic, you have confession and the Eucharist. We have honesty, just telling the truth, big one. Not trying to tell the truth without upsetting people, without not purposely using the truth as a weapon, but just to hurt people, but using it as a weapon just to fight against the darkness. And then connecting with people, like it's happening all over the country now. Groups of people are connecting that see past the lies, and we're it's going. I think something's going to come. Something's going to come out of this. Like I said, it's going to be a big victory, but I think that there's going to be in the meantime, a war. Like I said, with the jobs, the fallout from that, and the immigration. It's not going to be an easy victory. It's going to be very, extremely challenging. But like I said before, it's the people who are up for it have got a real fire, and I think that they've got a passion, and I think we're going to win. So I just leave it there anyway. Thanks very much for watching, and God bless. Take care.